Hey everyone, Jeff here from Six String Obsession. Just want to make a little quick video on how to make a pedal board. So I've got old shelving 9 inches wide that I'm going to be putting it all on. I lay out my pedals. I've got on the far right, I've got my wah pedal. Next to that is overdrive. I got my multi-effects pedal, and the far left is a DDS delay. So, and there's also an optional foot switch I'm going to be using there. Next step after I lay it out is to cut the wood. So I measured out the distance on the board I need to cover all the pedals. I'm going to use my square. I'm going to make a nice straight line, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and cut. Please don't anybody tell my dad how I'm cutting this. He's a carpenter. He'd probably be appalled. I'm using our garbage can to set this up here. Next, I've got some pieces of wood about 6 inches long and about 3/4 inch thick, and that'll give me some slope on the board. I use 3 screws to screw this side in, and I'll do the next one here. You choose a bit that's wider than the screws, so you have a bigger hole that the screw will go into on the shelving. And then when you screw into the block underneath, it'll pull it up real nice and tight for you. These are all-purpose screws. Next thing I had to decide was how I was going to secure everything to the board. These lighter weight pedals, I'm going to end up using, I'm going to drill some holes along the side of it. I'm going to use some mini bungee cords. I'll show you how those will secure a little bit later. For the bigger, heavier units, like the effects processor from Digitech and the wah pedal there, I really need to secure them well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off these rubber little pieces here, and then I'm going to remove these screws on here. And I've cut some little pieces from sheet metal, and this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to screw those on there and then screw that to the board. So I'll do that for both this and the wah pedal. Okay, here's how you get the metal strips. Now you can see I measured out with a straight edge. I made a line there. It's about maybe 1/2 inch wide. I'm just going to take the snips and go ahead and cut those. I'm going to kind of make it a little circular there. I can always smooth those out later. Okay, here's a drill bit I'm going to use to drill a hole into the sheet metal. You have to make sure it's wide enough so that the screw that I'm using is going to pass through. Next thing I have to do is use something called a center punch to make a little starter hole so that it'll be easier to drill. If you don't have a center punch, you can use a nail. All I do is line it up. And that gives you your little start of a hole. Not sure if you can see there's some rough edges. I'm just going to take a file to that, shave them down, and then I'll put it back in here and flatten it all out. So that's got a nice slope to it. Okay. So I've taken off the rubber grippers on the bottom of the Crybaby and the Digitech processor, and I put my metal strips, I put the screws back on, tightened up the screws. Next thing I'm going to do is line those up. So I'm just going to screw those in. Okay, the wah pedal is screwed down. I went ahead and lined everything up again, and I made sure you know, I got room for the other smaller 2 pedals. But the thing to keep in mind is I don't need a lot of room to pull out those cords, because I'm going to use mini bungee cords to hold these in place. So I'm going to be able to just pop the bungee cord, lift it like that, and unplug them. If I were to screw them in like that, I wouldn't be able to get the plugs out. Position them right. Tighten up the screws. Okay, the next step we have to do is place our smaller pedals on the board where they're going to be, and then we got to drill a few holes. This is on the far left side of my board. I only have to drill a couple holes in the right, and I've already done this, so I'll show you how you know what it looks like. You can see those holes right there. There's two holes, and the smaller one is just going to be for a bungee, little mini bungee cord. The other one's it's bigger. I actually made 2 holes and connect them. It's going to be for a mini bungee cord and the power cord. And then what I did was I took a ring hanger for picture frames. That's this piece right here. Drilled 2 holes, and it's got a nice little clasp there that the bungee cord hooks onto it from one side. That's threaded through. The bungee cord comes around, and it ends up down here where it attaches. So that holds it pretty firmly in place. Okay, so I'm ready to put the last pedal in place. And this is kind of tricky. This one has to fit in between what I've already screwed down. And looking over this now, I probably could have given myself a little bit more leeway. So, but there's nothing I can really do about it right now. So I'm going to have to really be careful with how I drill the holes, because if I shift it, if the holes are off center, it may shift the pedal off. It may not fit in right. So I'm just going to be real careful. I'm just going to get I'm going to just mark some spots where I want to drill my holes. On this side, I'm probably going to go about maybe 3/4 of an inch from the edge. And I'm just going to mark it right alongside it. And again, I've even hooked up all the power, so I know how this is all going to fit in here. Just to make sure that I got room and everything. Make it there. And over here. Word of caution right here. As I'm drilling, you can see I'm really close to these. So if you have any doubts about doing this yourself, you may want to get a professional carpenter in to do that. And the other thing is, I'm going to get some things to protect. I'm going to get some heavy-duty tape to protect these. And the other thing that I'm doing is for these bungee cords, I'm making sure that I have to make it a pretty big hole to be able to get around. So I've successfully drilled 4 holes without going through the carpet or messing up my pedal finish. Okay, and the other thing I have to do is I do have to make room for a power supply. So what I'm going to do is try to put a hole right next to here, because this cord here is pretty wide, and I found out on the other one, if I did 2 holes side by side, that's the only way that would be able to fit through. And I want to throw it in from underneath to make it look neat. And that's where I'll drill that hole. so it grabs it like this. Last thing I have to do is hook everything up. So I'll get the electrical in there, slip in 2 of those, one for the wah and one for the overdrive pedal. Okay, only thing left is just kind of neaten up some of the cords. If I wanted to, I could have painted the board. I even add a little bit of dark carpeting or something like that if I want to make it dark. Maybe over here, I got some old door pulls or shelf pulls. I put one there and one over on the other side because that is kind of heavy with between the wah and the effects processor. So I'll probably screw down those. That way I'll have something to hold it down. When I transport it, all I got to do is disconnect the cord going from digital delay to the amp, and the one going into the wah from my guitar. And I'll probably I'll probably get a bag to fit that. So I mean, you look at most of that was from scraps. I had to buy the ring hangers that I had in the bag for the bungee cords, and that's on the bungee cords too. Those are cheap. But otherwise, there really wasn't a lot of expense in it. It was recyclable. It was recycled wood and sheet metal. So that's pretty much the finished product there. Everything's connected up electrical wise. It's working.